What if the biggest thing holding you back isn't a lack of resources, but how you think about your limits? We're all taught to fear debt. We see it as a weakness, a source of constant, gnawing stress that holds us back. But what if a Roman general, over 2,000 years ago, figured out that his monumental debt wasn't a liability, but the ultimate psychological weapon? This is the story of how Julius Caesar used his crippling debts not just to get by, but to build an empire. And more importantly, it's about how you can use his ancient strategies to turn your own perceived weaknesses into your greatest strengths. We're going to break down the mindset of one of history's most ambitious figures and translate his playbook into a modern guide for getting things done. So forget what you know about liabilities. Today, we're turning them into leverage. To really get how Caesar turned debt into a weapon, you have to understand the sheer scale of it. We're not talking about a missed car payment here. We're talking about a mountain of borrowed money so huge it would have buried anyone else in Rome. In the late Roman Republic, politics was a pay-to-play game. Caesar came from a respected family, the Julii, which gave him a great last name, but their bank accounts had seen better days. To climb the political ladder, the cursus honorum, you had to spend. And spend lavishly. This meant funding public games, handing out free grain, putting your name on massive buildings, and, of course, old-fashioned bribery to get votes. Caesar didn't just play this game, he took it to a whole new level. The historian Plutarch tells us that before he even held a major office, Caesar had already racked up a debt of 1,300 talents. Now, to put that in perspective, a single talent was a fortune. By 61 BC, as he was getting ready for his governorship in Spain, his debts were so insane that his creditors literally showed up and blocked him from leaving Rome. He was trapped. This is the exact moment where any normal person would have folded. The pressure, the public shame, it would be paralyzing. For Caesar, it was just a Tuesday. To get out of this mess, he went to the richest man in Rome, Marcus Licinius Crassus. Crassus was a legendary tycoon, and he agreed to guarantee a huge chunk of Caesar's debts, a sum of 830 talents. To give you a sense of scale, some estimates place the modern value of that amount in the hundreds of millions of dollars. This wasn't friendship. It was a cold, hard investment. Crassus saw Caesar's wild ambition and bet that he'd become a powerful asset. And that one move reveals the core of Caesar's strategy. His debt was no longer just his problem. It was now Crassus's problem, too. He had just made the most powerful moneyman in Rome a stakeholder in his own success. The situation was so tense that on the morning of the election for Pontifex Maximus, the chief high priest of Rome, Caesar kissed his mother goodbye and reportedly told her he'd either return as Pontifex Maximus or not at all, meaning his creditors would force him into exile, or worse. This wasn't just drama, it was his reality. Every political move he made was shaped by the crushing weight of the money he owed. His debts forced him to be bolder, to take bigger risks, and to aim for prizes no one else would dare to. He couldn't afford a small win. He needed to conquer the world just to break even. So, how does a man drowning in debt flip that burden into a tool for power? The secret is a powerful psychological shift. Where everyone else saw a crushing liability, Caesar saw a web of incentives he could manipulate. He didn't just owe money. He created a system where his success became essential to some of the most powerful men in Rome. This is the heart of the debt weapon. If you owe the bank $100,000, you've got a problem. But if you owe the bank $100 million, the bank has a problem. Caesar got this on a massive scale. By borrowing from guys like Crassus, he wasn't just getting cash, he was buying their loyalty. Crassus and his other high-profile creditors couldn't afford for Caesar to fail. If Caesar went down, their massive loans went up in smoke. So, it was in their absolute best interest to make sure he not only survived but thrived, getting the powerful jobs that would let him pay them back, often through the spoils of war. This flipped his creditors from enemies into unwilling business partners. They had to use their own money, influence, and political muscle to protect their investment, and that meant protecting Caesar. They argued for him in the Senate and funded his next moves because his victory was their only way of getting paid. He essentially took the biggest capitalists of his day and made them his personal board of directors, all of them desperate to see their stock, Caesar himself, go to the moon. What's more, this colossal debt created an aura of unstoppable ambition. In a society obsessed with power, Caesar's willingness to risk it all sent a clear message. He wasn't playing the same game as everyone else. While his rivals were aiming for small, safe wins, Caesar's finances forced him to go for absolute power. This made him both terrifying and magnetic. Allies saw a man with nothing to lose and everything to gain, a force of nature worth betting on. Enemies saw a desperate man, but his desperation made him dangerously unpredictable. This mindset also freed him from playing it safe. He couldn't afford caution. The only way out was forward, through bigger and bolder gambles. The governorship in Spain wasn't just a job, it was a treasure hunt to grab enough wealth to keep his backers happy. The conquest of Gaul wasn't just a military campaign, it was also a decade-long enterprise that generated a staggering amount of revenue from plunder and slaves, which helped clear his debts and fund his ultimate run for power. His debt became the fuel for his ambition, a constant, high-stakes pressure that demanded nothing less than peak performance. He didn't succeed in spite of his debt, he succeeded because of it. So, how do we use this in our own lives? It starts with the first and most powerful biohack: cognitively reframing your perceived weaknesses. Modern psychology confirms that things like chronic debt and stress weigh on us, messing with our decisions and making us feel helpless. We see our limits, not enough money, time, or connections, as walls boxing us in. Caesar's strategy was to see those same walls as launch pads. He didn't just manage his debt, he changed his relationship with it. He saw it not as a source of shame, but as a source of power. This is cognitive reframing. It's the conscious choice to shift your perspective and find the opportunity hidden in the challenge. You can apply this to almost anything. Facing a brutal deadline at work? Most people feel stress. But you can reframe it. That tight deadline isn't a threat, it's a tool to force a state of deep focus. It's a non-negotiable reason to kill distractions and get things done. Just like Caesar's debt demanded victory, your deadline demands efficiency. It gives you permission to be ruthless with your time. Feel like you don't have the resources to start that project or business. That's a classic weakness. The Caesarian reframe is to see this not as a disadvantage, but as a creativity filter. Constraints breed ingenuity. When you don't have a big budget, you're forced to be smarter and more agile. You can't just throw money at problems, you have to outthink them. Your lack of resources becomes your creative superpower. This works because it changes your brain's response. When you see a situation as a threat, your brain hits the panic button, flooding you with stress hormones and narrowing your focus to just survival. But when you reframe that same thing as a challenge, you activate your brain's reward system, releasing chemicals like dopamine that boost motivation, focus, and problem solving. You become strategic. To try this, identify a major limitation in your life right now. It could be money, a skill you lack, or not enough support. Write it down. Now, ask yourself 3 questions just like Caesar might have. Who else wins if I beat this? How does this limit force me to be smarter or more creative than other people? What bold move is now possible because of this limitation? You're not just thinking positive here. You are actively rewiring your mental operating system. You're taking the very thing you think is holding you back and turning it into the engine for your ambition. Caesar's second move wasn't just mental, it was social. He tied his fate to others, creating a web of strategic interdependence. This is our second biohack: engineering your environment so that other people are invested in your success. Today, we often see our goals as solo missions. We grind alone, afraid to ask for help or show any weakness. Caesar did the exact opposite. He made his goals a problem for the most powerful people in Rome. He built in accountability by making his success a financial requirement for his backers. How do we do this today? You don't need to go into debt with a billionaire. You can create the same effect in smaller, but just as powerful ways. The key is to create accountability where others have skin in the game. One way is a high-stakes accountability partnership. Don't just tell a friend you want to hit the gym. Make a deal. For every session you miss, you owe your friend real money, say $20, and vice versa. Suddenly, your workout buddy isn't just a cheerleader, they're a stakeholder. They have a financial interest in making sure you both show up. Or try it with your career. If you want to learn a new skill, don't just buy a course and study in secret. Announce your goal publicly on LinkedIn or to your professional circle. Better yet, commit to teaching a free workshop on that topic in 3 months. Now you have social stakes. Your reputation is on the line. You've also created stakeholders. The people who signed up for your workshop are now counting on you. You've manufactured an external demand for your success, which is a powerful force to pull you forward. This works by tapping into what psychologists call loss aversion and our need for social validation. We are wired to care about our reputation. The fear of public failure can be a way stronger motivator than the private desire for success. By creating stakes, whether they're financial or reputational, you trigger loss aversion. The pain of losing face or money often hurts more than the pleasure of winning feels good. Caesar made it so Crassus would lose a fortune if he failed. You can create a micro version of this. Form a small group with ambitious peers. Each person declares a bold 90-day goal and puts up a serious amount of money, maybe $500, into a pot. At the end of the 90 days, only the people who hit their goals get their money back. The money from those who failed gets split among those who succeeded. All of a sudden, your peers aren't just friends. They're invested in holding you to the highest standard. This is the core of Caesar's strategy, making your success matter to other people. You're no longer just pushing yourself forward. You have a whole social ecosystem pulling you toward your goal. If these strategies are resonating with you, and you want to keep learning how to turn limitations into unstoppable leverage, then do yourself a favor and hit the like button and subscribe to Wealth Saga right now. Our entire mission is to decode the playbooks of the greatest minds in history and give you the tools to build your own empire. Don't miss out. Caesar's final secret wasn't one single trick, but a state of mind forged in the fire of his situation. His massive debt created constant, high-stakes pressure. He couldn't afford an off day. He had to operate at his absolute peak all the time. This brings us to our third biohack: intentionally using pressure to unlock your full potential. Most of us run from pressure. We want comfort and stability, thinking that stress is the enemy. But that's not the whole story. The right kind of pressure, sometimes called positive stress, is actually a powerful trigger for getting into the zone. That state of flow where you're so focused that time just flies by and you perform at your best. Caesar lived there. For him, failure meant ruin, exile, or death. That reality eliminated any hesitation and forced him to be decisive. We can hack this mindset without the life or death stakes. The key is to intentionally create conditions that demand more from you. One great way to do this is through fear setting, an exercise made popular by Tim Ferriss. Instead of just setting goals, you clearly define your fears. What's the absolute worst that could happen if you take that bold action? How bad would it really be? And most importantly, how could you recover? Once you shine a light on the worst-case scenario, you often realize it's way less scary and much more fixable than the vague anxiety that holds you back. That clarity gives you the courage to take on the high-stakes challenges that lead to peak performance. Another technique is time boxing with consequences. It's one thing to give yourself 3 hours for a task. It's another thing to give yourself a hard 90-minute window, and at the end, you have to post your progress for everyone to see, finished or not. This manufactured pressure forces your brain to focus. There's no time for doom scrolling or procrastinating. Like Caesar before a battle, you have to be ruthless with your resources. This high-stakes mindset is also fueled by being physically resilient. Caesar was famous for his incredible endurance, marching for miles with his soldiers and living as they did. This wasn't just for show. He was forging a mind and body that could handle constant pressure. We can build that same resilience. Things like deliberate cold exposure, ice baths or cold showers, Train your nervous system to deal with stress. Intermittent fasting can boost mental clarity. Tough workouts don't just build muscle, they build grit by teaching you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. These aren't punishments. They are ways to systematically expand your ability to handle pressure. Every time you willingly step into a high-stakes situation or embrace discomfort, you're teaching your brain and body that you can handle more. You're raising your own baseline for what's possible. Caesar's debt was the ultimate forcing function. It created a world where excellence was his only option. You can create your own. Sign up for that competition. Commit to that public speaking gig. Put a real penalty on your procrastination. Intentionally shrink your deadlines. Stop treating pressure like a threat and start using it as a tool to hack your own biology, to unlock a level of focus and drive you never knew you had. In the end, Julius Caesar's greatest weapon wasn't his army, his brilliant strategies, or his political charm. It was his ability to take his single greatest liability, a crippling, impossible debt, and turn it into the psychological engine for his entire empire. He showed the world that limits are often just a matter of perspective. By reframing his weakness as a strength, he found a new way to think. By making others invested in his fate, he turned his creditors into his biggest allies. And by embracing constant pressure, he forged a mindset that demanded legendary performance. These are not just dusty lessons from history. They are a timeless blueprint for ambition. Your weaknesses aren't your destiny, they're just data. Reframe them as the source of your greatest creativity and strength. Make people bet on you, don't go it alone. Weave your success into the success of others to create a powerful network of accountability that pulls you forward. Stop avoiding pressure. Seek it out. Use it as the tool to forge an unbreakable mindset and unlock your peak performance. So, what's the debt in your life? What's the limitation you believe is holding you back? Stop seeing it as a cage. See it as a weapon in waiting. Reframe it, leverage it, and use its pressure to forge the success you were meant for.